Hare Krishna, welcome all of you for today's Srimad Bhagavatam session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 5, entitled Narad Muni's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Srila Vyasadeva. Text 33. Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena suvrata tadeva hyamayam dravyam napunati chikitsitam. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Srila Narad Muni continued, O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Purport. An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparations sometimes cause disorder of the bowels, but the very same milk converted into curd and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cures such disorders. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized. Just as by fire iron is made red hot, and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the secret of spiritual success. We should not try to lord it over the material nature, nor should we reject material things. The best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the Supreme Spiritual Being. Everything is an emanation from the Supreme Spirit, and by His inconceivable power, He can convert spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Therefore, a material thing, so called, is at once turned into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so called matter in the spirit in the service of the spirit. That is the way to treat our material diseases and elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane where there is no misery, no lamentation, and no fear. When everything is thus employed in the service of the Lord, we can experience that there is nothing except the Supreme Brahman. The Vedic mantra that everything is Brahman is thus realized by us. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So Narad Muni is continuing to give his instructions on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Vyasadeva. And Narad Muni has so far discussed about his past life, how as a child in his previous life he had the great opportunity to serve the pure devotees of the Lord during the 4 months of the rainy season, Chaturmasya. And because of their association, Narad Muni got an opportunity to hear about Krishna from them. He also engaged in their service, and once taking their permission, he also accepted Mahaprasadam, remnants from their plate. And because of this, there was a transformation in the consciousness of the boy. he gradually became very attached to the devotees and also to the process of devotional service. This we had seen in the previous verses. And also, Narad Muni had mentioned that whatever one's abilities or talents may be, one can attain perfection by employing all his abilities and talents in the service of the Lord. And previously, also, Narad Muni had mentioned that every person, every human being has a natural inclination to hear about somebody, to adore somebody, to become a follower of somebody. So, why don't you write a literature which will help people to actually become attached to the Supreme Lord and his devotional service? That will be the perfection of your ability to write. So, these were some of the instructions that Narad Muni had given to his great disciple Srila Vyasadeva. Now, in today's verse that we just now read, Narad Muni is giving a wonderful example. He's saying, Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena subrata tadeva hi amayam dravyam na punati chikitsitam. This word chikitsitam had come earlier also. Chikitsa means cure. So here, amayaha means diseases. Amayaha yascha bhutanam. Whatever diseases a living entity may have, bhutanam means the living entity. Jayate yena suvrata. Jayate become possible. Yena by which or by the agency. Subrata, O great soul. So Subrata is a adjective by which Narad Muni is addressing his disciple Vyasadeva. A great soul who is fixed up in his vows. He is called Subrata. Tadeva hi amayam dravyam. That very same disease, dravyam, thing, uh, na punati chikitsitam. Does it not cure the disease with the treatment? So Narad Muni is saying, O great soul, Subrata, does not a thing, dravyam, applied therapeutically, chikitsitam, cure a disease, amayam, which was caused by the very same thing, jayate yena, the very same thing which causes a disease can also act as a remedy when it is properly used as a medicine. That is what Narad Muni is saying. And Srila Prabhupada begins the purport with the example. He says, when you take excessive milk products, there will be problem in your bowels. And what is the remedy for that? Another milk product, that is curd. Curd is nothing but a transformation of milk. And when that milk curd is taken along with other ingredients, then the bowel problem, which was caused because of excessive intake of milk or milk products, can be solved. That means the solution can be many times found in the very same ingredient which caused the problem. That is the understanding here. So, for every disease, there is a particular cure, and the cure many times it is found in the very same object or very same ingredient which caused the disease. Now, we must also have heard about anti-venom, right? Snake bites can be cured by anti-venom, and this anti-venom, is actually extracted from the venom itself, the poison of the snakes. So, snake venom causes disorder, causes health issues. Now, that health issues and the disorders caused because of snake bite can be cured by the anti-venom, which is actually nothing but transformation of the snake's venom or poison. Now, in the same way, Prabhupada is saying, all of us in this material world, we are all engaged in various activities, and these activities we are doing under the influence of the three modes of material nature, and these activities have infected our consciousness. The activities which are actually done with an agenda of personal sense gratification. That is called lust. So, when these activities are done with the agenda of enjoying independent of Krishna, that binds us. But when the very same activities are spiritualized, they are actually employed in the service of the Lord, then the very same activities can cause liberation also. That is the idea. For example, we all prepare food and we eat. But if we prepare food for our personal enjoyment, it is sinful, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Yagnashishta santo muchyante sarva kilbishaihi. Bhunjate tva agham papa ye pachanti atma karanat. Atma karanat means for our own pleasure. If for our own pleasure, pachanti, we prepare food, we are verily eating bhunjate tu agham papam. We are verily eating sin only. But when the same food is prepared in a devotional spirit and it is offered to Krishna, and then the remnants of Krishna prasadam are taken, then what happens? Yajna Shishta, it is called Yajna Shishta, the remnants of the Yajna, remnants of offerings to Lord Vishnu. Then what happens? Uh, Yajna Shishta Ashinaha, Ashinaha means to eat, Santaha, then we become a devotee, a saintly person. And then what happens because of that? Yagnashishta Shinasanto Muchyante Sarva Kilbishaihi. Muchyante means to become free from. Sarva Kilbishaihi means from all sinful reactions. So the cooking activity has not changed. Earlier, the cooking was done for one's own sense gratification. Then it became a cause of bondage because it is done under the influence of lust. But when the same cooking has been changed, the purpose of cooking has been changed to pleasing Krishna, and the food is offered to Krishna, then the very same act of cooking and offering and eating, they all become spiritualized. So this is the way, this is the antidote for all material activities. Now that's the beauty of Krishna conscious process. Krishna conscious process is not about negation. It's not about don't do this, don't do this. It's all about how to do the very same thing as a service to the Lord. That is the point. Like Arjuna was saying, I don't want to fight because it creates so many problems. It creates. But when Krishna said, no, this war has been arranged by me, you have to fight for my pleasure. Then the very same act of fighting for Krishna on the battlefield caused liberation for Arjuna. This is the understanding. So in Krishna consciousness, we do not try to stop our activities. We only try to dovetail those activities in the service of the Lord. This is exactly like using curds to treat the problems in the stomach because of milk products, eating milk products, isn't it? So we have to only change our consciousness. Instead of doing the activities in material consciousness, we have to do with in spiritual consciousness. So then we can actually become free from the influence of material nature. We become free from bondage. In the Upanishads, it is also said, Prabhupada quotes, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandhamokshayoho. The mind is the cause of one's bondage, and the same mind is the cause of one's liberation also. Bandhaya Vishaya Sangi. That mind which is actually attached to Vishaya, sense gratification, is the cause of bondage. Whereas that mind which is taken away from the objects of sense gratification and engaged in Krishna's service, that mind creates, it helps us to achieve liberation. So the mind is the same, but what is it fixed on? It depends on that. The outcome depends on that. If the mind is fixed on sense enjoyment, the result is bondage to the material world. But if the same mind is fixed on Krishna conscious activities in satisfying Krishna's desires, then the same mind causes liberation. That is why Krishna again and again mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that man manaha, think of me, satatam kirtayanto mam, always glorify me, always chant my holy names. Mam anusmara yudhyacha, do your activity, but while doing your activities, think about me constantly. These are all the instructions given by Lord Krishna. So, in this way, we can spiritualize our activities. When we spiritualize our activities and spiritualize our consciousness, then we become eligible to enter the spiritual world. So, whatever is there in the material world, devotees do not deny it, devotees do not try to avoid it, but the devotees engage all those in the service of the Lord. That is the point. Prabhupada gives another example. When the iron is kept in fire, it becomes red hot. Then it acts like fire. In the same way, when we engage in Krishna's service, all our senses, then all our senses become spiritualized. We become spiritualized. Our existence becomes spiritualized. And when our entire existence becomes spiritualized, we become eligible to enter the spiritual world. And Prabhupada says that is the secret of spiritual success. So, Prabhupada writes, the best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the supreme spiritual being. So, this is a very important concept in our Krishna consciousness, which the Mayavadis they miss out this point. The Mayavadis are very busy philosophically trying to say that this entire material world is Maya, everything is false, reject everything. That is their idea. But the Bhagavatam is saying that everything must be engaged in Krishna's service. That is the best use of the bad bargain. We are in the material world. That's a bad bargain. We should not have come to this material world. That is a bad thing, bad bargain. Somehow we have landed up in this material world. But if we are intelligent, we will think how to get out of this miserable material existence. And the way to achieve that is engage everything in Krishna's service. That is the best use of the bad bargain. So, everything is an emanation from the Supreme Spirit, and by his inconceivable power, he can convert spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Therefore, a material thing, so called, is at once turned into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so called matter in the service of the spirit. So, we have to engage the matter in the service of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. Since everything is Krishna's energy, by his will, matter can be changed into spirit. That is, he can do it. So when we engage our material assets, our material body, our material senses, our material mind, our material intelligence, false ego, everything, if we engage in Krishna's service, then all of these will become spiritualized. That is the whole process of Krishna consciousness. So, Prabhupada once was giving a lecture, and Prabhupada pointed out at his mic stand and said, this mic stand, because it is being used in Krishna's service, it may look like material, but it is not material, it is spiritualized. Why it has become spiritualized? Because it is being used in the service of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. That is the meaning. So, in the same way, when we engage ourselves in the service of the Lord and gain association of the Supreme Spirit, Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, then we will actually come back to our original spiritual position. That is the whole process that Narad Muni is trying to explain. So, we have to always engage ourselves in the service of the Lord. That is the meaning of this instruction. Let us go to the next verse, text 34. एवं नृणां क्रियायोगा सर्वे संसृतिहेतवः त एवात्मविनाशाय कल्पन्ते कल्पिता परे. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Narad Muni continued, Thus, when all a man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which caused his perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. Purport. Fruity work which has perpetually engaged the living being is compared to the banyan tree in the Bhagavad Gita, for it is certainly very deeply rooted. As long as the propensity for enjoying the fruit of work is there, one has to continue the transmigration of the soul from one body or place to another, according to one's nature of work. The propensity for enjoyment may be turned into the desire for serving the mission of the Lord. By doing so, one's activity is changed into karma yoga, or the way by which one can attain spiritual perfection while engaging in the work for which he has a natural tendency. Here, the word Atma indicates the categories of all fruitive work. The conclusion is that when the result of all fruitive and other work is dovetailed with the service of the Lord, it will cease to generate further karma and will gradually develop into transcendental devotional service, which will not only cut off completely the root of the banyan tree of work, but will also carry the performer to the lotus feet of the Lord. The summary is that one has to, first of all, seek the association of pure devotees who not only are learned in the Vedanta but are self realized souls and unalloyed devotees of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. In that association, the neophyte devotees must render loving service physically and mentally without reservation. This service attitude will induce the great souls to be more favorable in bestowing their mercy, which injects the neophyte with all the transcendental qualities of the pure devotees. Gradually, this is developed into a strong attachment to hearing the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which makes him able to catch up the constitutional position of the gross and subtle bodies, and beyond them, the knowledge of pure soul and his eternal relation with the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead. After the relation is ascertained by establishment of the eternal relation, pure devotional service to the Lord begins gradually developing into perfect knowledge of the personality of Godhead beyond the purview of impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. By such Purushottama Yoga, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one is made perfect even during the present corporeal existence, and one exhibits all the good qualities of the Lord to the highest percentage. Such is the gradual development by the association of pure devotees. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So Narad Muni is continuing the analogy that he mentioned in the previous shloka. He's continuing that. Evam, in this way, Nrinam Kriya Yogaha. Nrinam means of the human beings. Kriya Yoga means all activities. So now the activities that we do with an intention of enjoying the fruits of our own actions, such actions are called karma. But when the same activities are engaged in the service of the Lord, then it becomes karma yoga. That's the difference. Karma means it keeps us bound in the cycle of actions and reactions. Karma yoga, it liberates us. Yoga means to connect with the Lord. When the same actions are performed as a service to the Lord, it becomes karma yoga, right? So before hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was thinking that when I fight in the battlefield, I will be killing so many people and I will get reactions for it. Therefore, let me not fight. So, fighting with material consciousness or not fighting to avoid the reactions, both are actually karma only. They attract reactions. Whereas, after hearing the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, Arjuna understood that actually Krishna wants me to fight. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all activities. Therefore, let me work, let me fight because Krishna is telling me to fight. I will fight on his order and I will fight as an instrument in his hand. In this way, Arjuna decided to fight. Then it became Karma Yoga. There's a difference. So Karma Yoga does not attract any material reactions, positive or negative. It is beyond Punya and Papa. Whereas Karma, it is always, uh, it binds us to Punya and Papa. And as long as we have Punya and Papa balances, we have to again take birth in the material world with in different species of life. So karma binds us, karma yoga liberates us. So the same thing Narad Muni is saying, Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga, both mean the same. So evam nrinam Kriya Yogaha sarve samsriti hetavaha. Sarve means everything. Samskriti means material existence. Hetavaha causes. Ta evatma vinashaya. That very same thing, Atma, here Atma Prabhupada says it refers to the tree of work. This material body is actually the tree of work, isn't it? It is produced because of our past karma. And this body is meant for going through the enjoyments or sufferings of our previous past karma. Therefore, this body is actually the tree of karma which is bearing fruits of the past activities. Therefore, the word Atma here refers to the tree of work. Taevatma Vinashaya. The tree of work is Vinashaya. It becomes destroyed, killing. Kalpante becomes competent, Kalpitaha, dedicated, Pare, unto the transcendence. When the body is dedicated, when all our activities are dedicated for the service of the Lord, that very same activities which cause pers- perpetual bondage, becomes the destroyer of the tree of work. In other words, it causes liberation. That is what we had discussed in the previous shloka also. So now this fruit of this tree of work is an interesting concept. So in the Kathopanishad, this analogy is there. We all know it. Samana vrikshe. In the same tree, there are two birds sitting. One bird is enjoying the fruits of that tree, while the other bird is witnessing the activities of the other bird. So one is the Atma, the soul, and the other one is the Paramatma, the super soul. The Atma, who is engaged within this material body, he is interested in performing various karma and also engaged in enjoying or suffering the results of one's own karma, which are indicated as fruits of the tree of karma, isn't it? Now, the other bird, Paramatma, he is only witnessing and sanctioning. He has got nothing to do with the actions and aspirations of this individual soul. So, now when we engage in devotional service to the Lord, what happens is we are turning our face towards Paramatma, then who is actually our real well-wisher. Then the Paramatma will give us further intelligence on how to become free from the entanglement in this material world and escape this material world once for all. That is the whole process of Krishna consciousness. So we are ignoring, from time immemorial, we have been ignoring the Paramatma who is seated within our heart. We are very busy enjoying the fruits of our own actions. But Krishna consciousness is all about turning our attention towards our eternal well-wisher, towards Krishna, Paramatma, who is seated in our heart, by performing devotional service. And this devotional service begins with the association of pure devotee, spiritual master. Adau Guruvashrayam. Rupa Goswami also says the first step. Adau means first step. First step in Bhakti Yoga is Guru Ashrayaha, to take shelter of a pure devotee. Now, this pure devotee should not only be well versed in the Vedanta, but he must be an unalloyed devotee of the Supreme Lord. That means he must be a Bhakti Vedantist. He must know the conclusion of the Vedanta, and at the same time, he must be engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Actually, Vedanta ends, the pinnacle of Vedanta is to know Krishna and to engage in devotional service of the Lord. That Krishna himself tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedaischa sarvaihi ahameva vedyaha. The whole point of studying the Vedas and Vedanta, the ultimate end of knowledge, is to know Krishna, and knowing Krishna culminates in the process of engaging in loving devotional service to Krishna. So, a neophyte who wants to begin the process of spiritual awakening must go to a pure devotee who is a Bhakti Vedantist, and without reservation, one must engage in loving service of that devotee, of that spiritual master, both physically and mentally. So, what will happen because of this when we engage in the Mahat Seva? This is called Mahat Seva. Mahat means the pure devotees of the Lord, and Seva means to render service. So, when we render Mahat Seva, what happens? We get Vasudeva Katharuchihi. We get a desire to taste, get a desire to hear about the pastimes of Krishna. And by this, what happens? We uh, become situated in our constitutional position by gradual awakening of our constitutional position. And because of this, one will actually be engaged in understanding one's personal relationship with Krishna beyond impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma. So Prabhupada calls this as Purushottama Yoga. Actually, the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called as Purushottama Yoga. So, Purusha means the enjoyer, Uttama means the highest. Who is the highest or the greatest enjoyer? That is Lord Krishna. Therefore, he is called Purushottama. So, when all our activities are engaged in the service of the Lord, that process is called Purushottama Yoga or devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that means it all begins with rendering of service, association of pure devotees of the Lord. Without association of pure devotees, our devotional service, our spiritual life does not begin. That we have seen in the example of Narad Muni himself in his past life. Without coming in touch with those pure devotees, Narad Muni's spiritual journey would not have begun. Therefore, all these points Narad Muni is explaining to Vyasadeva so that he can further elaborate and explain in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 35. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam chayattadadhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but factually, Bhakti Yoga is above both karma and jnana. Bhakti Yoga is independent of karma or jnana. On the other hand, jnana and karma are dependent on Bhakti Yoga. This Kriya Yoga or Karma Yoga, as recommended by Sri Narada to Vyasa, is specifically recommended because the principle is to satisfy the Lord. The Lord does not want his sons, the living beings, to suffer the threefold miseries of life. He desires that all of them come to him and live with him. But going back to Godhead means that one must purify himself from material infections. When work is performed, therefore, to satisfy the Lord, the performer becomes gradually purified from the material affection. This purification means attainment of spiritual knowledge. Therefore, knowledge is dependent on karma or work done on behalf of the Lord. Other knowledge, being devoid of bhakti yoga or satisfaction of the Lord, cannot lead one back to the kingdom of God, which means that it cannot even offer salvation, as already explained in connection with the stanza Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse 12. The conclusion is that a devotee engaged in the unalloyed service of the Lord specifically in hearing and chanting of his transcendental glories, becomes simultaneously spiritually enlightened by the divine grace, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So Narad Muni is continuing to instruct. He says, Yadatra kriyate karma, yat whatever, atra means in this life, in this world, kriyate karma, the work that is performed. Yadatra kriyate karma, bhagavat paritoshanam. Bhagavat means unto the personality of Godhead. Paritoshanam means for his satisfaction. Toshana means to satisfy. Paritoshana means to completely satisfy. So those activities which are performed in this world for the complete satisfaction of Bhagavan, for the complete satisfaction of the Lord. Jnanam yattad adhinam hi. Knowledge, what is so called adhinam, dependent. Bhakti yoga samanvitam. Bhakti yoga means devotional service. Samanvitam means dovetailed with bhakti yoga. So the meaning is whatever work is done in this world for the complete satisfaction of the mission of the Lord, that is called bhakti yoga or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And the jnana is adhinam. It is a concomitant factor of this bhakti yoga. Concomitant means it is a resultant factor, that which is coming or associated with. So when we perform devotional service to the Lord, as a byproduct of bhakti, one gets jnana. This point has already been explained in the second chapter of the first canto. We have discussed it in detail. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahitukam. So simply by rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both jnana and vairagya come about as a byproduct for the devotee. So jnana and vairagya, they are actually byproducts of devotional service, not the other way around. It's not that by if somebody has jnana and vairagya, one can get bhakti. Not necessary. But if one can get bhakti by the association of pure devotees, by practicing devotional service gradually and very quickly, as Bhagavatam says, one can achieve both jnana and vairagya, transcendental knowledge and detachment from this material existence can be achieved simply by engaging in devotional service to the Lord. There are many examples of this in the Bhagavatam. When we see the small young devotees of Krishna described in the Bhagavatam, be it Dhruva Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj, even at their in their young age, they were able to speak on transcendental subject matters. That means they had jnana. Why did they? How did they get this jnana? It is because of engaging in devotional service to the Lord. Hmm. They did not actually go through the elaborate study of all the Vedas, but simply because they got the association of pure devotee like Narad Muni, and being obedient to him, they engaged in devotional service to the Lord. They automatically got the understanding of all the conclusions of the Vedic scriptures. Another example is Gajendra. Even in the body of an elephant, Gajendra was able to offer suitable prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And these prayers are filled with philosophical conclusions which are so deep. How can an elephant actually get this kind of a consciousness? That's because in his previous life he was actually Maharaj Indradyumna who performed devotional service to the Lord under the guidance of his spiritual master. So because of that, the realizations had come to him even in the body of an elephant. Now this itself proves that uh, knowledge is subordinate to bhakti. One may have knowledge, but that person may not necessarily understand bhakti or practice bhakti. So we see that many times persons who are very knowledgeable, they may speak very nicely on various subject matters, both material and spiritual, but personally they may not have faith in the Lord's protection. They may not have faith in the existence of the Lord. Uh, Many times people say that, this deity in the temple, it is simply one statue. Now, those people, they are very learned, very advanced in knowledge, both material and spiritual, but they don't have simple faith that the Lord is present as his deity in the temple. Now, this is also the Mayavada uh, school of philosophy, which says that knowledge is supreme. Bhakti is only for the beginners. That is what they say. In the beginning, you need some object to focus your mind. Therefore, you can go to the temple and worship the deity in the temple. But once you attain certain maturity in realization and knowledge, you don't have to worship the deity. And the deity is only material. That is their understanding. The same Mayavadis say, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. They say everything is Brahman. So if God exists everywhere, why can't he exist in the deity for a devotee? So this they cannot understand. So uh, that is why it is said, by studying the Vedas, becoming a erudite scholar, one will not get bhakti. Bhakti can be gotten only when we are blessed by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. There is no other way to get bhakti. Bhakti cannot be gotten by studying the Vedas, by elaborately speculating, by discussing philosophical truth. All these are not the ways for getting bhakti. Bhakti we can achieve only by the combined mercy of Guru and Krishna. In the fifth canto of Bhagavatam, there is a statement which says, Lord Krishna can easily give material wealth. He can easily give even liberation to people in this world. But as far as pure devotional service is concerned, the Lord does not easily give pure devotional service to anybody and everybody just like that. Because a pure devotee can control the Supreme Lord with his love and devotion. So therefore, the Lord does not give this controlling power, the pure devotional service to anybody and everybody. That is the point. So pure devotional service, if we want to achieve that stage, then we have to receive the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. There is no other way. Now that is about jnana. What about vairagya? There are many instances in the Bhagavatam about vairagya also. Vairagya is also a byproduct of bhakti. Example is Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee of the Lord from his very childhood. Bhagavatam says during his childhood, just like children play with dolls, he used to play with Krishna dolls and he used to imitate his elders in the family by worshipping the deity, by bathing the deity, by dressing the deity, by decorating the deity. He was actually full of Krishna consciousness even from his childhood. That was a position of Parikshit Maharaj. And later on, when he got this news that he's going to die in 7 days' time by the curse of a Brahmana boy, instead of securing his material possessions, he actually at once gave up his entire kingly position and he went to the banks of river Ganga to hear Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami. So immediately, in a moment's notice, he was able to give up all his material attachments. So this proves that one who is a devotee of the Lord, one who has cultivated devotional service throughout his life, easily can attain vairagya, easily can give up attachment to material things. In fact, even when he was a king, it's not that he was attached to his material possessions. He was ruling the kingdom as a representative of Krishna, as a service to Krishna. He was totally detached, even when he was a king. So when he got to know that he's going to die, immediately he gave up his attachment to his royal comforts, to his family, to his near and dear ones. Another example we see in the fifth canto of Bhagavatam is Maharaj Bharat. Bharat Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord, and he had received instructions from his father, Lord Rishabhadeva, who was actually a incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So, Bharat Maharaj, he ruled the kingdom very nicely, and at a suitable time, he gave up his kingdom his family, his children, his royal position, everything, and he went to the forest to attain perfection in Krishna consciousness. And Bhagavatam describes that uh, Yuvaiva Malavat, he was in his prime of his youth, he gave up all these things. It is so difficult to give up these material possessions. But how was Bharat Maharaj able to give up? He was able to give up because uh, Uttama Shloka Lalasaha. Bhagavatam says, because Bharat Maharaj was so eager to actually serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, therefore he gave up all these things, attachment to his family, wife, children, and the royal comforts, everything he gave up in the prime of his youth, just like one gives up stool. That is the comparison given in the Bhagavatam. When one gives up stool from his body, he does not feel sad that he is giving up. You know, like that, Bharat Maharaj gave up all these attachments just like one gives up stool. Why? The reason is Uttama Shloka Lalasaha. He was very eager. Lalasa means eagerness to serve the Supreme Lord. So, from these instances, we understand that Vairagya is a concomitant factor of bhakti. Vairagya is a byproduct of bhakti. So both jnana and vairagya, they are subordinate factors of bhakti or resultant factors of bhakti. That is to be understood very nicely. When one engages in devotional service, one gets knowledge and renunciation very easily, not the other way around. Other way around means one may have knowledge and renunciation, but not necessarily that one may be a pure devotee of the Lord. Such a person may not be a pure devotee. One may have knowledge and renunciation. For example, the Mayavadi sannyasis. The Mayavadi sannyasis, they are always engaged in study of the Vedanta. So they are very, very knowledgeable, not just materially, spiritually also, they're very knowledgeable. And they can quote various Upanishads, various Vedas. They can quote so many and speak philosophically for hours together. They can give lectures, and at the same time they're very renounced also. They lead a very, very simple life, very austere life. But even though they are knowledgeable and they are austere, renounced, they don't have bhakti for the Lord. So that is the problem with the Mayavada philosophy. They don't have bhakti. Why? They think that the form of the Lord is material, the name of the Lord is material, the activities of the Lord are all material. They don't have faith in the Lord's personal existence. So, therefore, they may be very advanced in knowledge and renunciation, but they don't have bhakti for the Lord. So, what is the use of such knowledge and renunciation? If one is not developing loving service to the Lord, there is no use. आराधितो यदि हरि तपसा ततः किम नाराधितो यदि हरि तपसा ततः किम ततः kim means what is the use? If one is already engaged in the service of the Lord, what is the use of performing so many austerities for such a person? Because he has already attained the fruit of all austerities, that is, to engage in loving service of the Lord. On the other hand, naradhito yadi hari, if one is not engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, what is the use of all his tapasya, tapasa tatakim? Because he may perform so many tapasyas, only he will get pious credits, punya karma he will get, but that is not helping him to develop devotional service to the Lord. So now you see Chaturmasya is coming, 4 months during the rainy season. The scriptures recommend lot of prescriptions for developing vairagya. Chaturmasya Vrata is meant for developing vairagya. The result is vairagya. Just like Ekadashi Vrata, the result is bhakti. Ekadashi Titi Bhakti Janani. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Ekadashi is called Bhakti Janani. It is a mother of devotional service. By performing Ekadashi Vrata nicely, one advances in devotional service to the Lord. In the same way, Chaturmasya Vrata, the result is development of detachment from material things. Now, the Mayavadi sannyasis also perform this Chaturmasya Vrata very, very strictly. They observe all the rules and regulations very, very seriously. They don't travel anywhere. They sleep on the ground. They don't take any kind of palatable foodstuffs. They take very, very simple, saltless, and you know, uh, chili less, sour, this kind of food, bland food they take. And they perform so much austerities. And during the 4 months of Chaturmasya, they study the Vedanta. They don't travel anywhere. They sit in one place and keep on studying the Vedanta. So they're all doing all this. But finally, it is not pleasing the Lord. They're not becoming directly servants of the Lord. They're not engaging in service of the Lord. So all these austerities are actually meant to take us closer to the Lord. But if that very same purpose is forgotten, what is the use of simply performing rituals? So, on the other hand, the Vaishnavas also perform Chaturmasya, but the goal is pleasing Krishna. Samsiddhim Haritoshanam. Haritoshanam means pleasing Krishna should be the goal of all our activities. That is samsiddhi, that is perfection. Complete perfection can be attained only when we engage all our activities in the service of the Lord. So we do not perform Chaturmasya simply to get detachment, but we perform Chaturmasya Vrata on the order of the pure devotee spiritual master for his pleasure, for pleasing Guru and Krishna. Because only when Guru is pleased, we can advance in bhakti. So we are performing these vrata for the pleasure of the Lord, for the Lord's pleasure, for the pleasure of the spiritual master. This is the difference between the rituals performed by Mayavadis and the rituals performed by devotees. Externally, both may appear to be same. In fact, Mayavadis also perform Ekadashi Vrata. Very strictly they perform. The start time and the end time of the Vrata very, very strictly they observe. But all this is done simply for advancing in renunciation. Their goal is not pleasing Krishna. Their goal is simply to become more advanced, gain some pious credits. That is their goal. So we should not think that, oh, there are others also who are performing this vrata. Mayavadis are also performing Ekadashi vrata. But what pleases the Lord is the purpose with which the vrata is performed. That is more important than the details of the vrata. We should not become so entangled in the details that we forget the purpose. So many times devotees ask, Prabhu, what is the exact time for breaking the Ekadashi fast? Can you please tell what is the exact time? Like this, devotees ask, they send messages and they call and they ask. But Prabhupada has not specifically told like this, at this particular point only you should break the vrata. If you see the Vedic almanac, the Panchanga, you will get the exact time. When is the Ekadashi Tithi starting? When is the Dwadashi Tithi starting? And before the Dwadashi Tithi starts, you should actually break the Ekadashi Vrata. Say, for example, Dwadashi is starting at 6:54 a.m. So before 6:54 a.m., you should break the Vrata. Then your Vrata will be complete. You will get success. Now, this is all Karma Kandiya Vichara. Prabhupada has not told this. 6:54 a.m. before that only you should break the fast. No. Okay, there and here little bit. If you are not able to break on time, it's okay. So Prabhupada gave a general instruction. You know, after sunrise, our Ekadashi Vrata is always from sunrise to next day sunrise. Sunrise to sunrise. Prabhupada said on the Dwadashi day, that is the next day of Ekadashi, after sunrise, at the earliest possible, you can break the Vrata. So Prabhupada is helping us to understand the spirit more than the ritual itself. Prabhupada wants to follow the Ekadashi Vrata not simply as a ritual, but we have to do more devotional activity. That is the purpose of Ekadashi Vrata. You know, not just that, oh, I have a mental satisfaction. Exactly 6:54, I broke the Vrata, so I am successful. No, Krishna is not interested whether 654 or 653. That is not important. But what is your spirit? Bhavagrahi Janardana, it is said, right? Krishna is more interested in your spirit. Did you remember Krishna more and more on the day of Ekadashi? Or you were meditating more on prasadam, on varieties of foodstuffs? That is what Krishna is interested in, isn't it? So, um, what is more important? In fact, upa means closer, vasa means to stay. Upavasa means to stay closer to the Lord. That is the meaning of upavasa. How much you were Krishna conscious on the Ekadashi day, how much you thought about Krishna, how much you engaged in his service, that is more important. So, therefore, as Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, the general and popular notion is that by discharging fruitive work in the terms of the direction of the scriptures, one becomes perfectly able to acquire transcendental knowledge for spiritual realization. Bhakti Yoga is considered by some to be another form of karma, but factually, Bhakti Yoga is above karma and jnana. This we have to understand. Many people say Bhakti Yoga, and especially Mayavadi say Bhakti Yoga is very easy, right? Uh, but actually, and they also say Bhakti Yoga is also one of the karmas recommended in the Vedic scripture. It is also like one of the karmas, kamya karma. Kamya karma means the karma that you perform with a desire to get some result. And sometimes the Mayavadis also say that this Bhakti Yoga is all sentiments. So it is so easy, either simply imitating, all such things. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing Sankirtana, in the streets of Kashi, he was singing and dancing. The Mayavadi sannyasis headed by Prakashananda Saraswati, they were talking like this about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh, Bhavuka sannyasi. This is some emotional, sentimental sannyasi who has come and he's like a mad person. He's singing and dancing Hare Krishna mantra. And he has taken sannyas at a very young age. We all know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas when he was 24 years old. So all the sannyasis were thinking, if this person does not study Vedanta, then he will fall down from his sannyasa. Wow. So they had a conversation. And after speaking to Mahaprabhu, Prakashananda Saraswati and all his disciples understood that this is not simply sentimental singing and dancing. He has so much Vedic understanding. He knows the Vedanta. And he and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proved that the ultimate purpose of Vedanta is to engage in devotional service to Krishna, to chant the holy names of the Lord. So, therefore, the idea of all the scriptural instructions, recommendations, scriptural injunctions is to actually help us become situated in the devotional service of the Lord. So, therefore, uh, we have to engage in devotional service of the Lord. That is more important. By engaging in devotional service, both knowledge and detachment will come, and we have to begin our devotional service by the association of the pure devotee, the spiritual master. By his mercy only, our devotional service begins. And as mentioned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Brahmanda Kono Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Krupai Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. Only by the combined mercy of Guru and Krishna we can get pure devotional service. And such a Guru must himself be a pure devotee of the Lord, always engaged in devotional service to the Lord, and only then he can give us the seed of devotional service. So these are some of the points that we understand from these shlokas. We will continue to read and discuss in the next session. Thank you very much for your valuable time. We shall meet again in the next session. ग्रंथरा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, विश्व गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.
Jai.
हरे हरे कृष्ण.